Hello everybody, welcome to day number 59 of my self-connection experiment where I meditate every day for 2 hours and then shoot a daily video with you guys sharing my experience. Today was really fascinating how the mind was just really wanting to create the video in the meditation, and it was just caught up on I want to talk about this and this. And how hard it was for me to just kind of let go of the mind. And when we spend enough time in the mind, how just frequently judgments arise, and these inner arguments will arise where we'll be just having these imaginary arguments with people, or where we will just feel so much we'll just want things to be different, than they are, and how, to find true acceptance of what is, we've got to be in our heart, we've got to be in our body. True acceptance of what is, it's a tough place to find true acceptance. The mind is a tough place to find that. You're going to find just a bunch of duality, and right and wrong, and good and bad, and this should be and this shouldn't be. And so it was interesting to see all of that judgment come up, but also through meditating every day for 59 days for 2 hours, having the spaciousness for that judgment to arise, and this might sound weird, but to not have judgment of the judgments happening in the mind. To know that there's this greater space that you are, and to have compassion with that part of you that is still in judgment. And this is something that is really fascinating through meditating. It's just that you keep cultivating this more and more spaciousness for it all to exist within. And when it all has the room and the space to exist, all the judgment, the negativity, whatever you want to call it, that's when it can start dissolving. It's when it doesn't have the space to exist. It's when it's too much. It's when it's like overwhelming. That's when it tends to persist, because what it's doing is it's just trying to it's just trying to expand our container, really. All of this judgment, because the judgment brings pain, and duality brings pain, and pain a lot of times helps us to expand, helps us to grow. So once we start meditating, I hope that all made sense. This just comes through, and it made sense to me when I was saying it. So when we're meditating every day for long periods, what we're doing is we're just expanding our container. We're expanding our space so that we have room for it all to exist, so that we're not in conflict, we're not in judgment with our judgments. And it's funny how on this meditation journey, does meditation even work, right? 3 or 4 times on this journey, maybe even more, I've really questioned, is this even working? Is this worth it? I've reached points, I would say even just 4 or 5 days ago even, maybe a little longer, where I was like, geez, am I just in the same place I was 50 days ago, And it's amazing. Every time I ask that question, is this even working? Is meditating this long every day even working? I'll have a huge breakthrough, or I'll have a really deep realization. Or I'll feel, or the next day or 2, or maybe even 3 days later after asking that question of is this even working? 3 days later, I'll feel more deeply connected to myself than ever. And one of the true indicators of how much this meditation has been enriching my connection with myself and my inner world, how it's been expanding and deepening my inner world, is when I was listening to a satsang with my teacher Craig Holiday. I heard his presence differently. It's never the words, of course. It's always the presence behind the words. And I could feel a deeper level of presence behind his words than I ever could. And this was a couple days ago. And something in me was kind of triggered, oh, wow, there's the thing. There's the quality of being truly awake, of being truly self-realized. And for the first time, and I've even met with him in person and over Skype, but it was weird, it was interesting. For the first time in hearing him talk, I felt like I could access the depth from which he was speaking more in my body than ever. And it's kind of an indication. We can only, I couldn't go that deep with him because I wasn't, I could only go so deep in myself, so I could only access so much depth in him. And now going so deep within myself, I'm finding that what this true movement of, oneness is, awakening is, and it was a nice reflection, I guess, to say it succinctly. It was a nice reflection of all the inner work that I've been doing, and for me to be able to feel that behind his words. And so, yeah, every time you're on this path and you start questioning, is meditation working? Is this worth it? It's beautiful how life, shortly thereafter, if you stay with it and you just keep going inwards and keep connecting to yourself, it's amazing how life can always just, keeps guiding you and keeps showing you, yes, keep walking, keep walking forward, one foot in front of another. This is the way. And another thing I wanted to share about how these meditations have really been helping me is I'm noticing more of a capacity to listen. And a capacity to listen with the intelligence of my body, still listening with the ears, but more so just listening with the presence and the infinite intelligence of my body. And this has really been helpful with clients, of course, in sessions, because if I'm able to listen to clients with more of the body, with more of the intelligence and the presence of the body, well, then more presence can flow through, right? More presence can flow through into the sessions. And when you're really present, when you're really listening with the body, it's like the mind is blank and you're not thinking of what to say next. You're not worried about what to say next. You're just pure presence, and you're just allowing the body to be fully absorbing the message. And you're absorbing the words and the messages, I'm noticing, on so many different dimensions. It's like a multi-dimensional listening. It's not just listening for the sound. You're listening to even energy. You're listening to different aspects of people. You're really getting more of a complete picture when you're listening with the body, when you're listening with the heart, listening with just that infinite intelligence of presence. And so then that can, so you're receiving so much more, so then you have so much more to give, right? So if I'm receiving information through the body, and through the heart and through the infinite intelligence of presence, well, then I can give from that place. Compared to just receiving information from the mind, right? Then you can only give from that place, and that's so much more limited and less spontaneous and less helpful and less powerful. And so that is a really interesting shift that's happening. And I noticed it in sessions, but I also noticed it yesterday, a subtle thing, when I was doing yoga. Typically when I'm doing yoga and following, and it had been a while, right? So this is a good way to assess how effective the meditation has been. So let's just say a little month and a half or 2 months ago, I was doing yoga, and I would have to really watch the video, especially if they were teaching me like new asanas or poses. I'd have to watch them. I couldn't just follow the video by just listening for some reason. I just couldn't ever get the right pose or my body in the right place. But yesterday, and this just happened by accident, I was listening to the video and I didn't even have to look at it. And I was doing new poses, and I was just, it was the way I was listening to how the instructor was telling me to get into certain poses was much different. There's a different quality to it, and it was just so much more intuitive. And I found myself, I would look at the video every now and then just to check to make sure that I was doing everything right, and I always was. I was always exactly where the instructor was telling me to go. And that is so different than how it was a month and a half ago. So that's just a little thing to point out to you guys of how this really works. About how you become a better listener when you meditate. And there is other things I want to say about judgment, but I want to explore it more deeply. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I'm going to leave the video here, maybe a shorter video. I've been doing some really long videos. I've been having so much to share, right? Which I love sharing with you guys. As always, at the end of these, I always just think, I hope this made sense. Because, you know, this is the first time it's coming through, so, almost every time. And so, yeah, I hope that this was beneficial for you guys. Thank you for being here with me, and I love you all so much, and I will see you on day 60. Namaste.